We led the way for imposing the most far-reaching sanctions package ever adopted, and we must now ensure that they are fully implemented, because it's not enough to announce, to agree and to announce, but they have to be implemented, loopholes have to be closed, and hope that they will undermine the Russian war machine. President Putin intended to divide us, but he achieved just the contrary. We are more united and more determined than ever, much more than before the Russian aggression, and Russia is completely isolated on the international community, as the vote on the General Assembly clearly showed yesterday. This vote left not room for doubt. The world stands with Ukraine. The world stands on the right side of history, and this vote sent a clear signal. And today the Human Rights Council vote again and established again an independent commission of inquiry into the humanitarian situation in Ukraine. And also the result was very clear: 32 votes in favor, 2 against, 3 abstentions. I want to stress the importance that our sanctions are targeted, they are already producing results, and that the aim is not to harm the Russian people, but to pull the rug out from under the Kremlin's war machine. It is, however, unfortunately, as a fact, that it will also affect people who are not in the inner circle of the Kremlin, and until a certain point, ordinary people will also suffer the consequences of Putin's war, because let's call it the way it has to be called. That's Putin's war, and only Putin can end it. We have to avoid the Russian oligarchs to escape from the effects of sanctions and to clamp down on tax evasion. This is a good occasion to fight against the oligarchy and to fight against tax evasion, because both things go together. We have to locate them and to seize their assets, because the Russian regime dwells their wealth from corruption and tax evasion. We need to combat this and turn off the tap of money flows financing this senseless war. And in order to stop the flows of money who finance the Russian army and the Russian war, today we have also discussed the need to accelerate the green energy transition to further reduce our energy dependency from Russia. Allow me to say something about my visit to Moldova, together with Commissioner Borrell. Both of us, we underscored the solidarity of the European Union with Moldova, conveyed our gratitude and appreciation for the people of Moldova, their efforts and solidarity in welcoming refugees in a large number. Moldova is not the richest country in Europe, and it has been receiving such a big number of refugees that in proportion to its population is like Spain would have received more than 1 million refugees. The situation in Moldova is fragile, and they need urgent support, and we will provide it. Finally, allow me to underline a very clear political assessment. This is not the East against the West. This is not a remake of the Cold War. We are defending the sovereignty of the nations, all nations. We are defending the territorial integrity of states, all states, on the East, on the West, on the North, and in the South. It is not again the battle of two hemispheres. We are defending international law, sovereignty of states, territorial integrity, not violation of the borders, is something that is valuable for anyone in the world. We are not enemies of the Russian people. We are friends of Ukraine. We are supporting them on their fight. But we are not against the Russian people. That's Putin's war. And only Putin can end it.
Thank you very much. I will start by taking a few questions on the here. And I have first Thomas. You had.
Yeah, good evening. Thomas Kutschka with Frankfurter Allgemeine Zeitung. High Representative, while you were talking, a G7 declaration has been issued that announces further severe sanctions against Russia and potentially also Belarus. Since we haven't had a sanctions package for 2 days now, could you please walk us a little bit through the reasoning behind it, the aims of this package, and size and scope? Thanks a lot.
I understand that for the news, the important thing is the new package of sanctions. For me, at that moment, the important thing is to implement the yesterday package. Huh? Yes, it has been announced the will of continue advancing on the sanctions, and we too have been considering here which new package of sanctions can be decided in the coming days. For example, we can enlarge the number of banks, Russian banks, to be switched off of SWIFT, but we haven't taken any specific decision about such bank or another. We have sent to the technical bodies the proposal to study more banks, and let's see. We can increase the amount of banks. We can go deeper on the financial sanctions, but please stop one moment and think about the consequences of what we have already decided. Today, the last news is that Russia has made default on a certain number of debt nominated in rubles and not paying the coupon, the interest of this debt to the foreign investors by an amount of 29 billion euros or dollars. I don't know which the figure was related to euros or dollars. This is an important consequence. Immediately, in less than 3 days, 4 days, this decision of blocking the reserve of the Russian bank and the central bank of the G7, it will be full of consequences. So yes, it will be more sanctions, and they are being studied. Today we haven't taken any decision, but the important thing is to implement what we have decided. I understand that once we announce something, people forget about it. No, I'm not forgetting about it. When I'm saying I will look for the wealth of the oligarchs, this is something that has to be done, has to be followed, has to be implemented country by country, city by city, and it has to be converted on practical consequences of our decisions. Otherwise, it's wet words. And believe me, it will not be wet words.
Thanks. Now I'm going to go to the colleagues who are connected remotely. And Lawrence, you have the floor.
Thanks a lot. Calling in from Vienna. Harriet, 2 questions, if I may. The sanctions that are now in place, is the goal of those sanctions now to end simply the war, or is the goal of the sanctions to provoke a change of regime in Russia, and will they remain in place as long as Putin remains in the Kremlin? And my second question is on what's going on around me here. Everyone has said we're very close to a deal on the Iranian nuclear agreement. So who or what is standing in the way of finishing it? Thank you.
It's Lawrence. You could not avoid it.
I understand. Lawrence, look, we are not under regime change. The sanctions are not in order to provoke a regime change in Russia. By the contrary, the sanctions has been triggered by the war. And the purpose is to weaken the Russian economy, to make the Russian economy feel the weight of the consequences, and to increase, strengthen the position of the Ukrainians on the coming negotiations. But nothing about regime change. That's not the issue. I'm saying that's Putin war because it's not the war of the Russian people. It's the war of the Putin's regime. But we are not entering on this issue. And secondly, half of my brain is devoted to the Iranian, half of my brain and half of my time, well, not half of my time, maybe less than half of my time, is devoted to the Iranian deal, to try to revive the Iranian deal. Things are going on. I hope that during this weekend we can deliver. I hope.
Okay, and you have the floor.
I haven't said that we will get results during the weekend. I said we hope. I hope. I strongly hope.
Thank you very much. I'm Lily from Politico. A lot of Ukrainians are feeling quite disappointed right now by the decision not to establish a no-fly zone in Ukraine. What is your message to the Ukrainian population that, and those people on the ground who may be feeling abandoned right now by this decision? Thank you.
It's not to the Foreign Affairs Council of the European Union to take these kind of decisions. It's a matter of NATO. You know, when you decide that there is a non-flying zone, it means that you are ready to make this a reality using force, sending flights to shut down everyone who violates this non-flying zone. This is something that the European Union Foreign Affairs Council could not decide, certainly.
Thanks. Aurélie, you have the floor.
Bonsoir, Aurélie Punier pour Bruxelles 2. Je posais ma question en français. La Commission avait parlé d'un mécanisme de compensation pour les États qui seraient les plus touchés par les sanctions. Est-ce que c'est quelque chose qui a été abordé, discuté, ou est-ce qu'on en est de sa potentielle mise en œuvre? Merci.
Non, ça n'a pas été abordé. Ça n'a même pas été... La question n'a même pas été posée.
Okay. Angela, you have the floor from remotely.
Yes, thank you. Commissioner, you said the sanctions, the aim of the sanctions is to weaken Russia. But this, of course, takes time. What if in the meantime Putin doesn't stop? What's the plan B? I mean, to avoid the war. I mean, he attacked a power plant, as you said, a nuclear power plant with terrible risks for everybody. Is there a plan B for, I don't know, negotiation or asking Zelensky to leave Kiev, maybe? Not in sign of a surrender, but just to avoid war and wait for Russia to collapse, basically, because this will take time, it will take years. Thanks.
No, we are not going to ask Zelensky to surrender. On ne va pas demander à Zelensky de quitter Kiev. On ne va pas demander à Zelensky de ne pas se battre. Nous faisons ce que nous pouvons et nous pouvons beaucoup. Mais évidemment, si quelqu'un attend que les sanctions financières arrêtent la guerre demain, il ne sait pas de quoi il parle. Malheureusement, nous n'avons pas la capacité d'arrêter la guerre demain. Mais nous avons la capacité d'affaiblir l'économie russe, et beaucoup. Évidemment, ça prendra du temps. Évidemment, le Conseil des droits humains ne veut pas non plus arrêter la guerre, mais il peut envoyer des missions d'enquête pour déterminer les violations des droits humains qu'il y a eu, et qu'est-ce que ça ressemble. Et sans doute, quand ces missions fait son rapport, ça va encore affaiblir plus la Russie du point de vue politique en face de la communauté internationale. Est-ce que le vote aux Nations Unies va arrêter la guerre? Non. Malheureusement, non. On n'a pas de mécanisme de vote pour dire la guerre s'arrête demain parce qu'il y a une majorité aux Nations Unies. J'aimerais bien que la communauté internationale soit aussi puissante. Elle ne l'est pas. Mais sans doute, ça affaiblit la Russie, ça l'isole. Et l'isolement international et l'affaiblissement économique, ça a des conséquences. conséquences qui malheureusement ne seront pas immédiates. Mais c'est ça qu'il faut faire, parce que c'est ça que nous pouvons faire.
Merci, Philippe.
Merci, Philippe Renier, Journal Le Soir. Puisqu'il s'agit d'affaiblir la Russie et d'augmenter les chances pour l'Ukraine dans une peut-être future négociation d'avoir davantage de pouvoir, vous évoquez la question qui a été discutée au Conseil, à savoir d'accélérer la transition verte. C'est évidemment un but louable, mais qui sera encore peut-être plus lent que l'efficacité des sanctions. Alors, est-ce que la question de réduire l'achat aujourd'hui, ou demain en tout cas, de ressources en hydrocarbures de la Russie est évoquée à la table du Conseil, et dans le même ordre d'idée de nouvelles sanctions, est-ce que la question de la fermeture des ports à la navigation de navires russes a été évoquée ou sera évoquée bientôt, même si on a bien compris votre message qu'il faut d'abord mettre en œuvre tout ce qui a déjà été décidé. Merci.
Il y a eu, si vous voulez, un brainstorming de quelles étaient les possibilités d'agir avec plus de force. Certaines des idées que vous avez mentionnées ont été aussi mises sur la table par un certain nombre de pays, mais il n'y a pas eu de décision. Je ne vais pas vous raconter en détail des discussions qui ne mènent pas à des résultats. La transition énergétique, il faut l'accélérer. Pas seulement pour des raisons climatiques, mais pour des raisons géopolitiques. Hier, l'Agence internationale de l'énergie a publié un rapport qui dit que, avec un certain nombre de mesures qui sont tout à fait faisables, on peut réduire d'un tiers dans un an la dépendance européenne du gaz russe. On ne peut pas l'annuler de la nuit au lendemain, mais il faut la diminuer dès maintenant en mettant en œuvre tous les moyens que nous avons pour le faire. Et c'est ça le political engagement que le Conseil a discuté, et c'est ça qu'on va faire. Mais n'attendez pas que les gaz représentent, le gaz russe représente les 40% des importations de gaz de l'Union européenne. Il ne faut pas attendre que ça soit annulé de la nuit au lendemain, mais il faut le diminuer, et on peut le faire très vite. C'est ça qu'on va essayer de faire. Non, c'est pas ça qu'on va essayer de faire, c'est ça qu'on va faire.
Last question, gentleman here. C'est la dernière.
Thanks very much, Nick from The Sun. You mentioned at the start that you discussed the shelling on the nuclear power plants and that it could cause a catastrophe for the whole of Europe. I wonder, in that scenario, would you consider that to be an attack on the EU and therefore also an attack on NATO by association? And what would you expect the response to that kind of scenario to be? Thanks.
C'est une attaque contre l'Ukraine, dont les conséquences peuvent affecter l'ensemble de l'Union européenne. Mais l'attaque, c'est contre l'Ukraine.
Encore une question ou vous voulez terminer?
Je pense qu'on tourne en rond.
On tourne en rond. Okay, so this closes our our press conference today, and thank you very much for your patience, and see you probably next week.